Pride Month. This is my cheat sheet for Thursday, March 29th. All right, so long-term care insurance. Not something we've talked as frequently about. We know that the big story, the second story, the third story, all the stories are about the Supreme Court and the hearings on health care reform. We keep talking about traditional health care coverage. What about it? What should the government's role be with it? What's the outcome of this case? And yeah, we've talked about how much more expensive it's been year over year. What we really haven't spent much time talking about is long-term care insurance. And there is an even bigger crisis looming in long-term care health insurance. In part because of affordability, in part because some of the regs that have gone into play with health care reform, namely pre-existing conditions and not being able to deny anybody coverage based upon that, apparently that applies to long-term coverage as well. We've seen a real chilling impact in that market. The coverage that you buy to fill in all the blanks for what traditional healthcare insurance doesn't cover. There's a little duck that's made a pretty good go of it on this type of insurance, along with several other companies. Well, Prudential just dropped out of that market too. In fact, when we go back over the past few years, 50% of all of the long-term health insurance providers are gone from the marketplace. They're no longer offering policies. And the policies that are left, well, they're all skyrocketing double-digit percentages. In fact, get this, since just last year, all right, since just 2011, the cheapest long-term care health insurance option that you can buy right now versus just about 4 months ago is 6% more than it was then, all the way up to 17% more. That's how quickly costs of long-term care insurance are skyrocketing. And so, as we have this bigger debate about healthcare reform, know that it's not just about the employer-sponsored plan having that traditional coverage. There are also enormous implications to long-term care. And who most often benefits from long-term care? Well, it tends to be our parents. Those are a little bit older that end up having people that can come in and help them in the home. Think of assisted living, nurses, those types of situations are often covered by long-term care options. And as those become more expensive, well, what we do with our parents in their time of need in their older years becomes more problematic. All right, inside the numbers on the Rubio endorsement. A little bit of a surprise, but not so much, right? Rubio right along had been hedging that he was there for Romney. He just hadn't come out and said it until yesterday. But what does his endorsement actually mean? Well, beyond the rhetoric, and it is rhetoric, Rubio's endorsement is the most impactful so far, not only because he's the rising star of the GOP, and in part because he's Hispanic, and he brings an element of influence from the Latino community, but he's also a Tea Party guy, right? So as we're talking about uniting with Romney, that goes a long way. Romney in the last week has gained the support of several notable Tea Partiers. But Rubio in particular, if he is, and he yesterday when asked if he would be the vice presidential nominee, if asked, came closer to saying, but they're not going to ask me. Which means that if Rubio's asked, it's looking more and more likely that he'll accept. What would Rubio on the ticket actually mean? Well, we have numbers. 60% of Florida Latinos say that they would be very likely to support a ticket with Marco Rubio on it. Now, to give you a number on this, 2/3 of Hispanic voters in 2008 voted for President Obama. 2/3. So if 60% in Florida say that they would go with Romney, well, you can see what an influence I could have on the ticket. What about nationally? Well, we're seeing nationally that 13% more Hispanics would be likely to support a GOP ticket that included Marco Rubio as the vice presidential nominee, and 12%, an additional 12%, would be at least somewhat more likely to support the ticket. So there could be an influence of greater than 30% in Florida and about 25% nationally with some of the first data we have coming back within the Hispanic and Latino community. So this has potentially those huge wide-reaching implications that some have suggested Rubio being on a ticket might offer. That is the cheat sheet for today. I got some great tech stories. Google's self-driving car driving a blind man around to the grocery store, fast food, all that kind of stuff. I got a video that's posted on the physical cheat sheet. Google Analytics that lets you, well, track you. All kinds of good stuff. Check out the physical cheat sheet, and we shall see you tomorrow.